Today's title, Squat Like a Pro. I don't know if we're all aspiring to be a pro, but we're certainly all working on improving our function and our mobility, especially as we get older or maybe are recouping from an injury. So, a couple of products I'm going to talk about today because they have similar purpose. But like many of Life Pro's products, these it really depends on what you're personally using it for, what your training goals are, what your limitations are. So please share those with me today as I go through a couple of products that are going to do the similar things that they're going to do is they're going to help you improve your overall mobility. Now, whether you're recovering from an injury or you've just got tightness in certain areas of your body, sometimes doing traditional floor exercises presents a challenge. Range of motion, poor balance, there's many things that aren't necessarily always related to the area that you may feel them being affected. The two tools we're going to be going over today are the Squat Pro Wedge and the Incline X Slant Board. And what each of these are designed to kind of have a visual here. The first one I'm going to go over is the Squat Pro Wedge. Amber did a great launch on this a couple weeks back, and Roseanne has done, I think, a level 1 workout with these already. But many of you that have seen me do standing exercises using my pool noodle, flexibility or lack of flexibility in our feet, our ankles, our calves, our hamstrings, can present issues in other areas of the body, low back pain, hip pain. Perhaps we're sitting too much and flexibility has declined just due to muscles being positioned and stagnant in a certain way. So sometimes what happens with our body is muscles aren't activated, or the technique that we're doing isn't complementing the area. You might be doing all the work, but if the technique is lacking, you may not be firing or engaging all of the muscles that you're trying to target. Hello there, Facebook user. I love my wedges, waiting for my incline. Ooh, I love doing launches where you guys already have these products and you can hear me go through. There's never one perfect way or person for any product, but the goal with these today, for those of you that are looking to squat like a pro, what that means to me is I want to improve my squat, or I'm limited in my range of motion in my squat, be it because of poor balance, poor flexibility. There's a couple of ways you can use these very simple and very inexpensive tools to improve your current routine, perhaps improve something that's just been causing you issues in all of your activities. I deal with a lot of special needs and medical concerns, and a big area I deal with is lack of flexibility in the hamstrings and the calves, and it's hard to get that foot flat on the ground and do a good stretch. So some of these tools not only improve and target those areas, but they can often make it much safer to perform and progress in exercises when you incorporate some of these tools. So the first one is a pair of these. This is the Squat Pro Wedge, and my Rockstar Jen behind the scenes will drop some links on how you guys can find these on site. Like I say, these have been out for a while. We know that Facebook user has them. So a little bit about these. I don't know if you can hear that. I don't know if you can see that. I kind of set the light up so you could see the sexy tread. This looks like my foam mats on my floor. This is, like kind of that what is it called? There's a name for this pattern, but it looks like to many of your husband's garage floors. This gives you some texture, some anti-slip, some grip when you're performing exercises on these. I am not a fan of exercising in shoes. I always use bare or sock feet, even when I'm advised not to. If you're just working with this type of tool to begin with for the first time, I'd recommend, go with what's comfortable for you. Shoes might be a good starting point just until you kind of get used to it. On the bottoms of these, there are 4 anti-slip, or on the 2 there on each side, pardon me. Okay, so there's 4 on the tops of those, and these are just going to lay on the ground, but they're steel, powder coated steel throughout. They are going to improve a couple of ways that you squat. And for those of you that are looking to perhaps improve on your technique, but range of motion, or maybe an old ankle injury, perhaps you have a fusion. A lot of my clients deal with pin and reconstructive surgery where it don't matter how flexible you'd like to be. There's actually a restriction on a joint, and sometimes using tools like this where you can elevate the heel or the toe of the foot The hands, like anything else in life, you are only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. And I'm hoping the latter will improve with some of my tips for today. So here we are. There's two sizes with these wedges. What I'm showing you today are the regular. Thank you, Jen, for posting. The regular come in inexpensively at $54.99. They have a handle that you can carry in the back, or if you'd like to hang them, if you've got things like that in your space. There is a larger size, so depending on the size of your foot, please take a close look at the dimensions if you're considering this. And if it's a family thing, obviously go with the biggest foot in the house. They are generic, but there are two sizes available: $54.99 on the regular and $59.99 on the large. So I just want to give you a bit of a visual and talk while we do that. So my floor is black. I'm hoping that this shows properly here. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take one of the foam liners so you can see this. And I'm going to start by standing sideways. Okay. Now I'm about a 9.5, depending on, whether it's the beginning or the end of the day, if you will. And I'm going to come in a little bit. What I want you guys focusing on is my feet. I want to make sure you can see my feet good. Okay. So we're going to angle a little bit. So if you are dealing with tightness in the back of the hamstrings, the calves, probably one of the most common conditions that'll surface when there's a lack of flexibility or range of motion in the feet and the ankles is plantar fasciitis. Fasciitis. I know many of you have heard of that. Probably many, many more of you have experienced that. And it's sensitive to sometimes bearing all of that weight on the heel. Depending on the size of your foot, I just want to give you a visual. Again, I've got about an inch both in front of and behind my toes, in the front of my toes and behind my heel. And again, I'm about a 9.5. So these are pretty generous, I would say, for most women upwards of size 10, being that my husband and I are the same foot size. He's about a men's 8. So maybe a men's 8.5. If you exceed that, I would consider looking at the larger size. And what's happening here is it kind of mimics for many of us ladies how we walk around all day. First of all, is in those high-heeled shoes. And one of the reasons that we begin to develop a lack of range of motion or tightness in the back of the legs is those darn high-heeled shoes. So if you're finding with your squats, a typical squat on the floor, your feet are flat. It's I've done this in a number of sessions, but bending down completely and having full range of motion while keeping those feet flat is a challenge for very many people. Thousands and thousands of years ago, this was a very neutral position. We could sit around the campfire for hours like this. This is how we used to poop in the forest. So this is a very common movement for the body. But many of us, on the way down somewhere, we get to the point where lack of flexibility and range in the ankles, the lower extremities, forces us to come up to the toes. And this is what many of us look like if we're even to get this low. So, and if you were to do this, many of you are going to lose balance. So the goal with a good squat isn't always going as low as you can, but the goal is to improve. And a lot of times, we're working on areas that really we don't put a correlation to the relationship of it. There's a lot to do with the ankle and the foot structure, which is the base of any standing exercise. That's your table legs. That's the feet of those tables. If you're lacking range of motion in the ankle, you're going to struggle to get lower and more effective into that squat exercise. So I'm just going to give you an example of that. And Amber went over this well, as did Roseanne. But by elevating those heels just slightly, the first thing you're probably going to notice is you will get deeper into your squat. A really good squat, it's like we're getting ready to sit down in a chair. And I'm gonna turn these around to give you a better visual this way here. Okay. So for many of you that are struggling and finding it's hard to get up out of that chair, out of that recliner, it's a better, you'll find yourself being able to get lower with that heel elevated. And again, this is just a starting point. If you find you're dealing with neuropathy, if you have really poor balance, this is a fearful exercise for you. A little tip that you can do is you can bring your heel a little bit further down So the heel is still elevated, but those toes are on the foot. Instead of the whole foot being completely at an incline, it's more like in the base of that high-heeled shoe. Or for those of you that are dealing with, like I say, neuropathy, a lot of times when you're dealing with lack of sensation, could be Raynaud's, whatever conditions are affecting the sensitivity in your feet, it affects your balance and your stability. So if we can improve the range of motion, the flexibility in the toes, especially the big toes, and keep that plantar muscle stretched and elongated, you're going to find your stability and your balance naturally improves as well. So the number one reason today's two tools are going to help you is they're going to improve your flexibility and they're going to improve your range of motion, which are both going to contribute to better mobility overall. So in this exercise, by standing forward, you can feel that the toes are acting a little bit more like a stabilizer. Whereas if my whole foot is on here, flat on the wedge, I feel it more in the shin, and the entire foot is having to work together to get stabilization. So if you are dealing with heel spurs, things like that, where it's sensitive on the heels, bring your toes down a little bit further, and you'll find that there's a little bit more weight distribution going into the toes. Whereas with a traditional squat, if you've ever heard me lecture you on my vibration platform sessions, it's about keeping that weight on the heel, 70 to 80% of it. Well, if you are dealing with heel sensitivity, if you're dealing with plantar fasciitis, just by elevating the heel, it is going to go a long way. Speaking of lack of flexibility, one of the big things, and I'm going to stick with plantar fasciitis because it's kind of one of the first things that you'll be dealing with if you've got back and hip issues, you tend to have gone through a bout of that. Whether you are dealing with it now or not, these are really good preventive things. And I'm using my stool today just sort of for mobility, something to hang on to if you do feel unstable. This is really something that could be done right beside the kitchen counter, back behind a couch. Just make sure you've got something to hang on to if balance is a concern. So one of the big things, again, when you're dealing with plantar fasciitis, back pain, hip pain, is a lack of flexibility. So a really good way to stretch those muscles, and I'm going to show you one leg at a time, is we're simply, unlike a vibration machine, I want you to lock that leg. Now, standing forward like this, depending on your range of motion, you might find just a slight shift in the weight is really all that you're able to do. I don't want savage bouncing movements. I just want you working within your range of motion. Keep those hips nice and level. I should have a nice straight spine, leaning forward. You would do the opposite side. I've got my entire foot on from the heel to the toe for this exercise. The back leg is more of a stabilizer. Feels like a really nice deep stretch on the calf, but in a very controlled manner. If you're dealing with plantar fasciitis, if you're dealing, things like spasticity in the hamstrings, the calves, we can take that a little bit further. And by going with 2 feet, I want you to really focus on keeping a nice straight alignment from the head to the toes, and just push forward, and you're going to feel that really pull in the back of the calves. Okay. If you're looking for a little bit more of a deep stretch, if you've got better range of motion, you might want to throw in some pelvic tilts. So we're going to tilt the bum forward, backward. Doing more like slow, tender reps versus a hard stretch. Work on range of motion in the core at the same time, and you'll feel that stretch all the way back up. There's two primary muscles. There's that big calf muscle that we spend so much time working and shaping, but a lot of times we neglect the little lower muscle, and a very easy way to get that one in the same, you're already in this position, is to just bend the knees slightly. You're also going to notice you're going to feel the top of the foot, the ankles are going to get a good stretch, but this is stretching down into the Achilles, that back area of muscles. Stretching back up again. Try that pelvic tilt. Whatever little rotation you'd like to do, there's a few variations you could perform. If you do feel unstable and you don't like stretching both sides at the same time, certainly, like I say, try just doing one at a time. Perhaps you have one side that's worse than the other. you know, that your hip is out of alignment, your knee, whatever it may be. We always have one side that tends to be better than another. What you will find is, depending on what your range of motion looks like now, you know, so many times my clients, you know, they think it's a race to touching the floor, but it's not about touching the floor this way. You know, a toe touch is, if you're using it for a stretch for the hamstrings and the calves, it's more about just allowing that upper body to hang at the hips, okay? By doing that same movement here, you're going to get a much deeper stretch. For those of you that do this type of a stretch regularly and you want to go beyond the floor, I'm going to show you this, because I do this stretch quite often. It's if I do anything in the day, it's this. I love that I can reach over, grab the handles, and pull myself a little bit further. Okay, again, no bouncing, but this is my favorite thing about these slant boards, is I pull and do that a little bit that way. Again, you know, any of the stretches that you're doing right now with your feet on the floor, you can experiment and try doing them in this new environment that just adds a little bit of angle and a little bit of, I feel so much looser already. The other thing that you could use these for is, for those of you, I was kind of playing with, if you have carpal tunnel, I get a lot of complaints on the wrists when we're doing push-ups. I was playing this way. You know, you might want to put some grippy gloves, or, you know, a little, I did have a little mat on the surface here, but you can get a better angle in the wrists and begin some push-ups if you want a little bit of a wider stance, okay? So you can get into that push-up exercise without that harsh 90-degree angle. I would like you to work towards that. So a really good way to start working the dynamic, don't do this on your toes and put a whole lot of body weight into it until you got some guns going. But you could, just by shifting your body forward, you're distributing more body weight and increasing the angle on that wrist. You know what I mean? So you can see the angles in my wrists bending more and more. But for those of you that do struggle, you want to do those upper body exercises, but that 90-degree bend on the floor is just too much right now. These are a great little tool to incorporate and just add a little bit more, you know, ability to get that hand flat and get deep into the exercise without there having to be such a substantial angle on the wrist. So another way that you can play with these. So I'm going to switch gears. These are pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to talk about what comes with them. I do want to get back to questions. For those of you that own some of these products already, I want to hear from you what you love, any hacks that you might be doing, where you are located, because these are both fairly new products. The other one I want to talk about is the Incline X slant board. So same basic concept, but instead of two separate wedges, one large plate. I know everybody's going to go, well, which one is better for this? Again, it really depends on what you're using it for, where you personally are starting physically, and where you plan to progress. There's never going to be one perfect product for every application. This has more adjustable angles. So what I like about the Squat Pro wedges is they're light. I would call them more of a portable product. Not that this is terribly heavy, but it is a little bit larger. Those pack away into a tiny little box. And there is an inclusion and other things I'll get to with that. But with the board, it is also steel powder coated. The surface, I think you can see here again, is a little bit different. It's more like that grainy, anti-grip, slippy, those strips you put on your stairs and things like that. So it is an anti-slip surface, different than the treads on the wedges, but an anti-slip surface as well. This is one large plate with several adjustable angles. So in the back of this bad boy, you can see, I'm trying to get this against the white wall so you can see there's different increments of height on this one. Let me see if you see it better this way. No. So silly. They're kind of, safety first, they're kind of on the inside of this frame. Right here you can sort of see. So there's 4 different angle increments. And where this might become important is maybe, you're working so hard and you're doing this every day, you want to progress further. You're going to use it for different things. Different family members are going to be using it. This is going to be a little bit more adjustable. So depending on where you set up the height, this is completely adjustable on the fly. So the top angle, and then it goes, there's 4 different increments. Now, the Squat Pro wedge is kind of in the middle. So this gets to a lower and higher angle. It's more adjustable. It's a single plate. I don't know that I would use this on your vibration plate because I know you're going to ask. I don't think that that's a very good idea. The Squat Pro wedge, I think, could be used. I haven't spent a lot of time working with it, but I know Amber suggested if you are going to use it only on flat plate surface machines. There's kind of an incline built into the rounded curves, and using a tool like this isn't going to cater to the design of that as well as a flat plate. If you are dealing with wanting to increase the areas of benefit that we've talked about today and use one of these products, you could certainly combine it with your curved plate, perhaps as a warm-up or a wind down, but I wouldn't use the Squat Pro wedges on the curved plate. It's just not designed. They're designed to be used on a flat surface. This also has 4 protection points for little feet for your floor. I just want to give you a couple of comparable examples on this one. I'm going to use this little white thing again so you can see it. Okay. Now this has got a fairly generous sized surface, so I'm thinking it's probably going to accommodate most feet. It is at least an inch longer than the Squat Pro wedge. So for those of you that are on this, there were 2 different sizes with this. This is more of a universal sizing. And very much like the wedges that I demonstrated, this is going to offer you the ability to do different range of motion, improve your stretches, stretch those calves. If you are working on, this one's at the beginning angle, but perhaps, I want to get deeper into my squats, but, I've got issues going on with my ankles, my range of motion. We should be doing the work on our feet, but I know many of you are impatient. So while you're working on the range of motion in your feet, you can still enjoy improving the technique and getting deeper into those squats. And you feel much more in control. Your weight distribution is much more centered in the middle of your foot, if you will. I'm doing this again bare feet, and you'll see that I'm going absolutely nowhere at all. One of the tips I mentioned earlier, if you do want more stability, you're dealing with neuropathy, you want to stretch the toes, improve range of motion there, is to just put the heel portion or a little bit more, but get the ball and the toes of the feet on the floor, and you can still work that range of motion. Perhaps you are working on, I showed you a different trick with push-ups that you could do. This one I found my hands adhered a little bit, but I would still recommend, where did I put my little mat? Maybe putting a mat or some grippy gloves to just give you a little bit more safety. But instead of your angle on the ground being at a 90 degree, you can see I've got a lot more forgiveness in that range of motion and in the wrists. And you can begin, your weight distribution is still over your hands. If you're using a vibration plate, it's a good habit to get into to align the shoulders over the hands versus the head, if you want to minimize the head vibe, if you will. Not harmful, but not everybody's cup of tea. But this allows you, if you're finding on your vibration plate or your floor exercises, it's just too hard on the darn wrists, this is going to be an excellent tool to allow you to not only perform a wider variety of exercises, but to get deeper and more effective within them if you're not battling the wrist thing, if that makes sense. Okay. Another thing that this is going to be really good for, I'm going to switch to my special needs crowd here for a little bit. One of the biggest things I deal with my cerebral palsy families is a tightness in the hamstring. It is keeping those feet flat on the ground. And either of these tools, many of you are probably using pool noodles or rollers or some of the tricks I show you to stretch the calves. Perhaps you're not in a position to yet purchase a vibration plate. I highly recommend you consider if you are dealing with any kind of special needs. But either of these tools are going to give you the ability to specifically target that group of muscles. And it's also going to allow you to perform those more functional squat and core strengthening exercises where the ability to get that foot flat on the ground is simply lacking. So, this can be a starting point for many of you to progress and improve conditions, but it's also an invaluable training tool. If you've ever worked at the gym and you want to take those exercises further, you can add your weights to this, your TRX, whatever it is that you're playing with now. Challenge yourself further. Get that range of motion going. It can also be an invaluable performance tool. And of course, neither of these need to be plugged into the wall. They take up minimal space, and either could ideally be portable. I would say the Squat Pro wedges are probably a better choice if you're looking at taking them with you and throwing them in your bag. That being said, I don't know how big your bag is if you're walking, driving. Either of them are certainly not overly heavy, if you will. So that's my little spiel. I'm going to get back to, I want to show you guys what else came with these. Okay. Okay. So first, again, for those of you that are just joining me, I'm going to get to some questions very soon. Starting with the Squat Pro wedges. I didn't bring them with me. Okay. 2 sizes. If you are, I was saying my foot's about a 9.5, and I had about an inch of space. So if you're up to about a 9.5 ladies, maybe even a 10, the regular size would be more than fine. I would say in a men's 8.5, maybe max. There is a larger size if you have a longer foot. So depending on what you're looking at, and both of the links have been dropped here for that. With the Squat Pro wedge, please, of course, anytime you get a new product, register that warranty within 7 days. Then you get your lifetime warranty. This is also going to include some floor protective pads. So there's the bait for you to register your warranty. Why wouldn't you anyways? But they'll send you out some floor protective things so that if you are using this on, brand new marble or wood or something of that nature, not only does it give you your floor a little bit of protection, but you might need a little bit of slippy, grippy protection as well. So register your warranty within 7 days of receiving your product, and Life Pro will send those out to you. And if you're not a member, I always like to remind people, join the VIP group. If you're not watching us on this page, you're seeing us on YouTube or somewhere else, please, please, please make sure that you are a member on Facebook of the Life Pro VIP group. It's kind of this exclusive little members club where, people that are using these products can give you some honest feedback before you make the decision. Or perhaps, you've got one of these products and you figured out this really cool move that a lot of people could benefit from. So just sharing sometimes is, it's a new year. We all want to stay motivated. We all want to keep moving. And sometimes just, you feel less alone and you don't have to have all the ideas if you've got someone that you can bounce those ideas off of. So, and I know some of you have both of these products already. The other is the Incline X slant board. Please be sure that you register your warranty. I don't know how much more in your face they can get when you open your box. Please register within 7 days and you will receive a set of free floss bands. If you look close, you can see there's an orange one and a gray one, and they come with a little bag just to give you other, resistance and upper body options. So that's there as well. With the Incline X as well, there is a 2-sided poster. 2-sided meaning whether you want this or this direction on your wall. Right? I practiced that so it wasn't upside down when I turned it around. I almost feel like I should be on The Price is Right. So depending on if you do want to put it up on your wall, I don't tend to like to put my posters up because I keep changing my mind I keep mine in a book, and then I don't do everything on the poster all the time anyways. I cherry pick a couple, but I really, really enjoy these. For many of you that have paid astronomical amounts for similar equipment, there's calf stretchers, there's all kinds of things out there. Just the bands that LifePro includes with these products cost more than many of these products do on the market. So there's tons of value there. With the Incline X, it shows you that there's the 4 different angles: 40, 35, 30, and 20 degrees. And it just gives you some sample exercises and how to perform them properly. What setting, what angle, I should say, you're doing your individual exercises on is very much a personal choice. Start conservatively. If you've never used one of these type of products before, where you're working with an inclined surface, don't just like on a treadmill, you wouldn't ramp it up to max incline right off the bat and expect to have a good run first time off the bat. Start, and get a feel for it on the basic one. If you're working with the slant board, with the Squat Pro wedges, start with your toes on the floor and get a feel for it before you progress to full foot on the slant. But I think you're going to find if you're doing things like stretching your calves against the wall or stretching your calves off a stair at the end of the night, a lot of these things we're supposed to be doing all the time. These make it not only, I would say, easier to do because you've got a solid surface that's working with you. You're not just relying on the balls of your feet or a certain area. It's that entire foot surface, should you choose. And safety. These things are, I think they're rated to take up to 500 pounds a piece. So if you do want to incorporate weights and you're using it as a performance tool, a stability tool, a lot of my bodybuilders, perhaps you're getting ready with your stage, your presence, and getting into those high-heeled shoes versus the barefoot of the runners that you've been wearing at the gym. These type of tools are really good for mimicking and making that real life situation and using and engaging in those poses in an elevated surface, which is what you're going to be in on stage. So all kinds of ways that you can incorporate these into your wellness and workout activities. So thank you for listening to me ramble today. I'd like to get to some questions. Can I use this on my Rumble-X after having a shoulder replacement? I got to be honest with you. If you've just had a recent shoulder replacement, why would you want to make your standing on? Yeah, the last thing I'd want you doing is falling off the machine. If you're a very advanced user and you're using your vibration plate regularly and you've used these for a period of time, then I would say you maybe have the confidence to start incorporating the two. But I want to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a situation that you're certainly not prepared. Nothing puts you in harm's way, but we certainly can injure ourselves in overdoing an exercise or doing it incorrectly. So if you exercise regularly and you use these types of tools now, it becomes a little bit more logical in how to incorporate them into the environment of the vibration machine, which it is. It's an environment that makes your exercises easier, or, if depending on what you're doing, more challenging for many. If you are asking me if you can use them on the machine post, maybe you're wanting to do upper body exercises, that might be an idea to consider. Try using them on the floor first and get a feel for them first. If you're doing upper body exercises on your machine now, great. But what you shouldn't do is start two new things at once. So, if you're not doing upper body vibration machine exercises and you're not using Squat Pro wedges, the first place wouldn't be a starting point of combining them. Max challenge, max learning. So, learn them independently before you incorporate some of these technologies, especially if you're looking at using them for performance. If you are dealing with shoulder replacement, or I think you said shoulder replacement, we would want to, of course, make sure that you have been cleared by your doctor to do weight-bearing activities. And, as long as you're past your recovery period, that's diligence with any type of surgery or injury. We just want to make sure that you are able to progress, not with the technology itself, but the type of exercises that you're doing on them is more where the contra is, at weight-bearing, non-weight-bearing, those types of things. I'm going to get down to the bottom. So we heard, I love my wedges, waiting for my incline. I could see us using both of them together, your feet on one, arms on the other. There's all kinds of ways that you can harmonize these together. Hello from Kim and Campbell River. Thank you for joining. someone was so Facebook user was asking about using them on the Rumblex. I hope I offered both scenarios. But Facebook user already replied saying, Tucson, I love the handles on the wedges. I have weak ankles and tight ankles. This is where my focus is now. I love the idea of the push-ups and wrists. I didn't think about getting the large ones for myself and my husband. Good idea. Can the incline be used with the wedges? I think again, it depends on how you want to incorporate them. I certainly wouldn't put one on top of the other to get more and more going, but I can certainly see different body parts going on to them. So you've got your upper body, let's say on the wedges or the incline board, and the lower body on the other. There's all, I've done that with vibration machines where I've got an upper body going, my hands are on one and my feet are on the other for max shake. So there's all kinds of ways that you can incorporate these. But before we get what I refer to as exotic, before you get into all these fancy moves, learn the basics, build a foundation. So again, if you're looking at incorporating these with your vibration plates or your other tools, just make sure that you're comfortable with using each of them independently before you try and incorporate them together. Why would you want to incorporate them together? Increase benefit in less time, or perhaps, you've got a range of motion issue and you'd love to get deeper on your squats or within your push-ups. And without using a tool like this, you haven't got the ability to do that. Some of these things I've done on pool noodles in the past, but they're not completely stable like something like this. So I think you'll enjoy not only the versatility of being able to do more range within your standing exercises and getting more functional with some of your upper body exercises, but play with the exercises that you're doing now. There isn't always a best exercise set to go with this tool. It's really the way that I like to train is it's much more about, what are you comfortable with now? If there's a group of exercises, kind of your go-tos, you probably tend to like them and will stick with something that you're already doing now more when you incorporate a new tool than with coming up with a whole bunch of other things that you're not comfortable doing. So, try these type of tools and incorporated with exercises that you know how to do, things that you could show other people how to do now. Then if you want to challenge yourself, you at least understand the basics, the weight distribution, how your body feels in a standing position before you try other things. But what I think you will find is when you start playing with tools like these, sometimes you get a little bit more adventurous and you will try other exercises because you got a new tool that sometimes makes them possible for the first time. I forgot to include one last little inclusion. This comes with the wedges. So this is a pretty substantial stretch brand. Guess who made it? You know it. So, while you're doing your standing exercises, there's all kinds of ways you can incorporate other things. I love using these to make my push-ups harder. So as I'm doing my push-ups, I've got to resist this. For those of you that are wanting to just work on alignment issues, your standing positions, this is included. And for the price of these things, this is like, I don't know, 20, 30. I think the last one I bought, it not exactly the same. It was about $35. So there's lots of value. This is just something you can use with the wedges. Perhaps this is your first purchase with LifePro. Maybe budget is very, very limited. I think you would get a lot of value out of either of these products. Neither of them have to be plugged into the wall. They are both portable to a degree. And if you mail away for your incline board or mail away, how old school am I? If you register for your 7-day warranty right away with your slant board, you're going to get some upper body floss bands. I shouldn't say upper body. They could be used for the things. And this is included in the box with the wedges when you order that. So you're good to go with that. And maybe you travel and you can't take your vibration plate or your treadmill or your dash bike with you, but you still want to do things. These are some great alternatives. For those of you that are dealing with bad knees, bad hips, alignment issues, I really see a couple of these products making things more possible. I see your range of motion being challenged. And the only thing you got to do is show up, be consistent, and stick with it. So that's why I'm here every Monday to motivate you, give you my take on these things. Amber and Roseanne have also done launches on both of these products. So variety is the spice of life. There is no exact equation to get you across that finish line. There's only experimentation. And I really hope that some of these new incline products will allow you to do exercises functionally with better technique than seeing you get frustrated because the range in the ankles isn't there, or you're dealing, like I say, with a fusion where it doesn't matter how much work you're dealing with, your ankle is fused. So some of the ability to adapt the surface in which your feet are standing on for these exercises, will improve range and just give you some more flexibility along the way. Better flexibility, better strength, better stability. It's all going to improve to that better mobility overall. And I look forward to seeing, for those of you that do own these, I want to hear some results over the next couple of weeks as you've played with them. I have another question. Can the incline be used as wedges? My small ones are too small for my husband's feet. I am getting the incline soon. It's, what I think, I showed earlier, the incline is actually about an inch longer than the wedges. So it's probably going to accommodate at least another foot size. So I think you may, depend, unless he's like a size 15 or 14 or something, wait till you get the incline. And I think you'll find that they'll be a good complement for each if he's doing foot exercises. Now, that being said, with the littler wedges, nothing's saying that he can't start with the toes and the balls of his feet on the floor to begin with. That might be a better starting point from stability. And, if he is dealing with stiffness or any spasticity in the back of the legs, he might find he wants to have the ball of the feet and the toes on the floor anyways. So play with what you've got, experiment with them. For upper body, either is going to work. They're all going to work the same way. It just really boils down to your preference. Do you want one solid piece that you can do those exercises on and have the the adjustable angles? Obviously you're dealing with a bigger surface, so incorporating something from a design perspective, I'm thinking the angles are going to be easy to do on the slant board. Whereas the Squat Pro wedge, because they're long but skinny, it makes it hard to turn those into an adjustable product. I would think, I like the fact that they're solid and fixed, and they're gonna serve most people's purposes out there. So it really depends on what you're looking at using for. And again, give me feedback. I look forward to seeing you guys same time next week. I don't have a topic as of yet, but I will share that with you once we decide what we're going to motivate you with next week. I hope you guys will have an awesome week. Don't work too hard, and do something. Do a little bit every day when you move, lymph moves, circulation moves. It doesn't always have to be a big workout. And today was a good example. Sometimes it's working on that range of motion, that flexibility, loosening up the fascia, whatever is holding you back from living that range of motion within your workout, or realizing, activities that you'd like to do in your own time. These are some really great tools to target those areas that may be holding you back. Have a great week. Don't work too hard. And I look forward to seeing you guys all again very, very soon. Have a great week.